Hey guys, how's it going? It's Molly. Today I'm going to be doing a Chatty Get Ready with me. I'm going to be using the products that I pulled in from my Shop My Stash and talk with you guys about my favorite things this time of year. So we got a lot of book recommendations, some podcast recommendations, some random other things. If that's interesting to you, or you want to see this like fall-ish sort of look that I'm going to come up with, maybe, perhaps, then stick around. Okay, so I've already moisturized my skin with my Trader Joe's Enriched Moisturizing Lotion. This works really well for me. I don't know why I would switch to something else. And I primed my lids with my Ulta Eye Primer, and I set them down with a Boat and Shade. So that's where we're at. I also have my breakfast, which is my peanut butter banana smoothie, and my coffee in one of my favorite mugs. I got it at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. It's a whale tail. I think it's so fun. So I think I'm gonna do one of the green shades in my Cleona singles. I think I'm gonna use the shade Vert, which is this shade here. It's like a green to purple to pink sort of, or maybe green, blue, purple. I don't know, but it's beautiful. That's what I'm gonna do. So the question is, how do I do that with these mattes? I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm gonna take Citrine as a transition shade, deepen up the outer V with Willow, and go in with Vert, and we'll see. And I might take Citrine all along the lid as well, in case you're curious, which maybe you are because you're here. So that's that. Okay, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite things for this time of year. I never used to love spooky season, but I don't know what's happened. In the last few years, it's become a bit of my favorite. Like I really, really enjoy it. And it's not that I didn't enjoy it. It was just another time of year. Like, who cares? But I love fall. I love going to the apple orchard, which I think we're doing this weekend, maybe next weekend. I love going to the pumpkin patch. So like you got those family friendly activities. And then I also freaking love watching horror movies. My oldest actually recently was just like, Mom, I really want to watch some horror movies with you. And I said, okay. Let me tell you, finding PG-13 horror movies is a little bit challenging. We don't let him watch rated R movies. I don't know if he does at his dad's or not. I don't think he does, but he might. So I'm like, well, but I'm standing firm. Like, I just don't think it's necessary for a 13-year-old to watch them. If you do, that's fine. I just don't want it for my kid. Anyway, so... And that may change, like, as he gets a little bit older. I don't plan on making him wait until he's 17 to watch rated R. Is that the age recommendation? I don't remember. But anyway, regardless, he's 13 years old, so I'm like, PG-13 is fine. Friday night, my husband put my youngest to bed, and my oldest and I stayed up, and we watched The Sixth Sense. So that was his first like horror movie. And I did not realize what a slow buildup it is. In my memory, I remember like immediately you know that he's seeing dead people. But like, yeah, it didn't show anything until like halfway through the movie. But at least not that I can recall. So anyway, we were both a little like bored. But then once you saw some of the scary stuff, he was like, oh my God. And why does that bring me joy? I don't really know. It's not so much that it brings me joy. It's more just like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's relatively harmless horror. You know, like I wouldn't feel right showing him like a slasher flick at this age. But this I think is fine. So that was a lot of fun. Aside from horror movies, I really love like books. I like horror. I also like thriller and mystery, things with the like splash of paranormal, I'm into it. So I have a list of books, and I will do my best to put pictures of the covers in this video so that you can see what they look like. So these are some books that I've read over the past year or so. And when I say read, I mean listened to, because I do not have time for actually sitting down and reading a whole lot. Like if I did that, I would consume very few books. But I'm also a really slow reader. I have to enunciate every single word in my head, and it takes forever. That was how I was taught to read. And I cannot break that habit. I've tried, and I feel like I don't comprehend very well if I don't do that. So it's what works for me. It also means I'm a slow reader, and it just is what it is, and that's fine. So anyway, let's go ahead, and I'm going to talk to you guys about some of my favorite, like, somewhat spooky books. Okay, first and foremost, with anything Ruth Ware or Tana French, love them. They are fantastic. Those authors are the reason that I want to go to the UK as bad as I do. Actually, that's not true. Mary Poppins is the reason that I want to go to the UK as bad as I do. But these authors are also contributing to like this resurgence of a desire to go to the UK. And like listening to the audiobook version of Ruth Ware. The Tana French books that I have, I've read all of them, like physically read them. Ruth Ware, I've only done audiobooks, and just, I don't know, there's something about hearing like an English accent reading a story that is, you know, they're not scary by any means, but they have some twists and turns. They're mystery thriller. And I love that. Like, it feels very cozy reading books like that this time of year. I freaking love it. Give me a hot drink, a blanket, and a good book, and I am stoked. So yeah, Ruth Ware, fantastic. I'm trying to remember, like, I'm not good at remembering the names of books. And I meant to like write down like individual ones for most of these are individual books, but I just at the top I wrote Ruth Ware. Like that's just Ruth Ware. I'm trying to remember, there's something like In the Deep Dark Woods. That one was really good. That one's really good. I love that one. So we'll just go with that. Read that book. Next up is The September House by Carissa Orlando. This is a book about a house that has some supernatural guests, and every September they come out to play, and they're not guests, they're the previous residents of the house throughout its history. It's like a super old house. So that one, oh my god, absolutely 10 out of 10. Highly recommended, especially this time of year. If I could go back, I would have read it this time of year. And I think I read it in the spring, so whatever. But it was great. It's very well done, like very well done. And there's like, it's humorous. There's some really funny parts in it as well. And yeah, it just, very good. So if you like some supernatural, ghastly things, that would be a good one for you to read if you have not read it yet. I just recently read We Used to Live Here. I don't think I wrote that on my list. And that one, like, apparently it's getting a lot of buzz on Book Talk. I must have added it to my Libby shelf before it gained popularity, because there was like no wait for it. And if you're familiar with Libby, usually there's a wait for the like really trending books. It was really good as well. So that one, it's basically this, a couple buys this house, and they like moved from out of state. And I think their thing was like they would buy houses and flip them. If I'm remembering correctly. And anyway, the wife is there one day, and a family knocks on the door, and it's a dad and a mom and 3 kids, and the dad used to live there, and like he just wants to take a gander at his old house. And so, against her better judgment, she lets him in, and they don't leave. So it is very, well, this is not a work look, but it's the look we're going with today. So it's trippy. And honestly, throughout most of the book, you're like, okay, how much of this is real? And like, is this like, is it paranormal stuff? Is it mental illness? Like, what is happening? And it leaves it doesn't necessarily like give you, the reader, a whole lot of answers. So the ending is open to interpretation, which is maybe a little bit frustrating, to be honest, but I thought that it was good. I thought it was well done. I'm also not a book critic. Like, I'm pretty easy to please when it comes to stuff like this. Oh my God, I have sparkle all over my pants because I've just been like wiping my hands on my pants. So that's cool. Before I move on to the next book, let's talk about base products. I've got my e.l.f. Halo Glow liquid filter. I've got my Uma Beauty foundation. I did use this the other day and I love it. I also had pulled in this Huda Beauty one. No. I'll talk more about that in my Shop My Stash video, but no. So I'm going to use those, and then this Natasha Denona concealer. Okay. Another book that I freaking loved, and I can't recommend it enough. It is by Grady Hendrix. So anything by Grady Hendrix, honestly, I really enjoyed, except for Horror Store. I didn't like that one. If you know, you know. Maybe you loved it, but I did not. But this one, it's the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. It is so good. It takes place, several of his books take place in Charleston. I can never remember if it's North or South Carolina, but Charleston. And I look it up every time and I still can't remember. So I don't know how to make that stick in my memory. Whatever. I even went there. I went there for a girls trip a couple years ago and had a blast. Like, it's a really fun city. Really good food. Really good food. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway. So this was, I read this recently, and so it was just fun because I was like, oh my God, I've been there. Like, he talks about just the layout of Charleston and different things about it. And it just, I don't think that's why I liked it so much. But anyway, the storyline, it takes place in like I think late 80s, maybe early 90s. And it's, these very demure Southern housewives join a book club, and the book club's really boring. So they start their own book club. And this book club they just do true crime novels. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this like, be still my heart. Like, these are my ladies. But they're fictional. So like, I immediately felt a connection with the characters, which I think helps a lot. I was like, oh my God, I love these people. And like, they had to keep it a secret from their husbands because their husbands were like these upstanding citizens. They lived in like the nicest neighborhood in Charleston, very affluent. Anyway, so they've started this like true crime book club. So they're kind of sleuthy, and this strange man moves in to the neighborhood, and he's a vampire. Like, it's known pretty much. I'm not ruining anything by telling you that. And it's a book about slaying vampires, so you kind of put it together that, oh, this must be the vampire. Anyway, it's all about like their experience, and how they finally rid their neighborhood of this evil, evil man. And it's very good. Honestly, like, of all the books I've read this year, and I've read like, I think I'm at 35, this one was my favorite. Hands down, truly a favorite. Like, I've read books and I go back and I look at it, I'm like, I have no idea what that book was about. But this one, it is right here. It stands out front and center. It's so freaking good. Okay. highly recommend. I've also read several other Grady Hendrix books. My Best Friend's Exorcism was the next one that I read. That one was really good. Oh, and there was another one about puppets that was really good as well. Hang on. I need to hunt. I can't find my sponge. I need to go find that. I'll be right back. If I can find, I will try to remember to place a picture of the one about puppets. Oh, it was so good. I read that so fast. By read, I mean listened to, okay? All right, in case I didn't like make that clear. These are audiobooks that I am talking about generally. Okay, next up, anything by Riley Sager. Like, they're not scary. They're not horror. They're like mystery thriller books, but they're cozy. Like, there's something just, I wouldn't consider them like cozy mysteries. I think that's like a whole genre, and I don't think that's this, but it feels cozy to me. So that's what I'm considering when I say that. Why did I do bright green eyeshadow? I think to make things interesting for a video, maybe. I don't know that I'll keep it on my face or if I'll wash it off. We'll see. All right, next up, It by Stephen King. When I first read that, it was fall. I think it's fall in the book. Like, it just, oh man, it's so good. I love that book. I don't care about the movie so much. Like, I'll watch the movies. But the book, oh dude. I wanted to listen to it. I want to listen to the audiobook. I read the physical book a few years ago and I really enjoyed it. Actually, yeah, it scared the ever living crap out of my oldest because he was little at the time. And the cover, you know, it's got Pennywise. I almost called him Perrywise. Pennywise the clown. So it was a little freaky for him. But anyway, very good book. Very well done. Stephen King, come on. And like I said, I want to listen to the audiobook, so I added it to my holds this morning. It is a 45-hour audiobook. Wow. That's even long for Stephen King. Like, most of the audiobooks I'm listening to are like 8, 9, 10 hours. Stephen King's are easily 24, but this is 45? What? Okay. I guess we're gonna do it. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be like a 2-week wait. And I'll report back and let you know how the audiobook is. I have realized that the narrator of the audiobooks are gonna make them or break them. I'm currently listening to a Frida McFadden one, and the way this woman reads is driving me bonkers. I can't remember. It's not like, I've listened to several of her books on audiobook, and a lot of them are the same reader, and she does great. This is a different person, and the way that she talks, I can't even explain it. Like, I would have to listen to it again and be able to develop some thoughts on it, but it's going to take me a long time to get through that book, I think. Anyway, speaking of Frida McFadden, I think if you like a good, like, twisty sort of mystery book, you can't go wrong. I've listened to several, let's see, The Teacher, Ward D, which was okay, but as someone who works in the mental health field, it was really just frustrating me, because she kind of sticks with this whole trope that, like, mentally ill people are dangerous and evil, and that's not the case. So it was a little uneducated, but it was still like an entertaining experience. So, powder products, let's talk about that really quick before I get any further. I don't know how I'm going to get to the rest of my recommendations. This is all books. We may have to do a part 2. But anyway, for bronzer, I've got my Flower Heat Wave. Blush, I'm going to be using my Novelist Skin Glazing Blush in Truth. It is one of my absolute favorite blushes. And for highlight, I've got the Soulmane Highlighter Moonlight Feel Highlighter in Pink Star. It's gorgeous. Okay, next. Did I say Riley Sager? Anything Riley Sager. Like, again, kind of like Frida McFadden, not scary, but entertaining. like nice and twisty. I think he does a really good job. I've always enjoyed his books. I've never once been like, oh, I wish I hadn't have read that. The one that I read the most recently was the only one left, and it's got like a touch of paranormal. It's always like a murder mystery. Very good. It's good. Let me see. Okay, and then I have to get rid of some of these and just, oh no, okay. Don't Let Her Stay by Nicholas Sanders. This is another like UK based author, and it's so good. It's this couple are living their best lives, like really affluent. Husband is very successful, and the wife, like they meet. He already has like a kid from a previous relationship, but she like doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Once he starts dating other people after her mother passes away. Anyways, long story short, the daughter comes back into his life, and her in the Don't Let Her Stay is the daughter. So she's an absolute psychopath. And it is a very good book. It was very well done. Again, like you kind of like We Used to Live Here, where it's like, who is it? Like, is it her that's the psychopath? You're pretty sure. And then there's this part that happens and you're like, oh, maybe not. Maybe not. It's very good. It was very well done. It was really entertaining. I highly recommend it. And then the last one I'm going to talk about today is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. Absolutely one of the best books I've read in the past like 5 years. I loved it. I saw some like book reviewer recently was like, it was terrible. And I don't know what book they read, but it was not the same one I read because it was great. I loved Daisy Darker. It's, I'm trying to remember the premise. This family is together and they're like, I think maybe the grandma dies. I can't remember. Somebody passes away and they're all back together, in like this family home, and they just one by one start getting picked off, and it's just it's very trippy, twisty, and I love books that have these like twists and turns and you don't see the ending coming. This was that book for me. I was like, what? Shocker. I don't know if I were to read it now after kind of getting used to this genre, if I would have that same reaction, you know, if I'd still be like, I did not see that coming, or if I would be able to like, no. But anyway, so those are the book recommendations. I'm gonna powder my face really quick. This is just my Sigma loose setting powder. When I'm not listening to audiobooks, I'm listening to podcasts. And to be honest, I've mostly been listening to audiobooks lately. So I don't have a ton of podcast recommendations, but the ones that I do love, and mostly it's true crime. That's what I really enjoy. And we're talking about, I've got some parenting podcasts that I really like as well. And I thought about maybe adding that, but that doesn't really fit with the whole spooky vibe. Oh, I forgot a book. Sorry. Speaking of podcasts, really quick, let me back up. No, hang on. We're going to stick with the podcast, and then I'll tell you the other book, because it's a podcast, a podcaster who wrote a book, and I really like it. So Morbid is a true crime podcast. It's these two, I think they're sisters, and they do such a good job. I don't know what it is. Like, there's something about them. Their voices, first of all, I find like enjoyable to listen to. And that does make a difference, because there is one podcaster that I'm going to mention here who I really love. Like, she does an incredible job, but sometimes I struggle to listen to her because sometimes her voice is a little bit too much. Anyway, but that's not very nice. Do I even need to go into that? I'm not going to. I'll just tell you the one. I'll just mention it and not even mention the voice. Okay. So anyways, Morbid, they do a great job. They talk about not just current cases, but cases from a very long time ago. And I like that. Like some of the historical stuff, it's nice to hear some of just those older cases that have not gotten a lot of airplay lately because they're old. So, sorry, something is happening to my eye. The other one, Crime Junkie. That was, I think, the first true crime podcast, or maybe even the first podcast I ever listened to. And I've always been interested in criminology and, you know, why people do the things that they do. I try not to look at it from like an entertainment standpoint because I think that's really disrespectful to victims. But I'm listening to these because A, I want to know how can I keep myself safe and my family safe? And B, what the hell did these parents do to these children? Like, not that I think that my child or my children would ever grow up to be this way, but sometimes it makes me feel really good about my mothering. You know, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm doing okay. But in all seriousness, like the human just the psychology behind it and what bad parenting can result in. So I think, I don't know, right or wrong, I am and always have been very interested in this stuff. And it's just something that I enjoy hearing about. I shouldn't say I enjoy hearing. I am sounding awful and I don't know how to make it better, but I know that I'm not alone. And I know that there are a lot of people who share my interest. It's just this like morbid curiosity. It's like, how can somebody be so depraved? Why are they so depraved? And like, how can I recognize those traits in people so that I don't find myself on the receiving end of that depravity? I think that's a lot of what it is. So anyway, the last podcast I'm going to mention for this video is Rotten Mango. Stephanie Sue is the host. She does a fantastic job. And I thoroughly enjoy her podcast. I haven't listened to it in a while. Because again, I've just been hitting the audiobooks pretty hard. But I think once my shelf on Libby is cold a little bit of some of the books that I've got waiting for me on there, because there's a lot right now. In fact, I had like ran out of room. It hit my maximum number of books I could check out. I think I'll maybe take a break from reading and get back into podcasts for a little bit. Who knows? Okay, mascara. So yeah. And then the book that I was going to go back and talk about. So one of the hosts of Morbid she wrote a book called The Butcher and the Wren. I love it. I can't wait for the next one to come out. It's supposed to be like a series. So I'm really excited. It's a medical examiner who is kind of being like harassed a little bit. There's a serial killer, and the story is told from his perspective and her perspective. And it's just, I'm dying to know who he is. But yeah, like I'm wondering if it's someone close to her, because he's like toying with her. He'll like leave notes for her and At least I think that's what he did. It's been a while since I read it, so like these little details are not super fresh in my mind. But he's definitely like, he's wanting to scare her. So yeah, I'm excited to read more of her work. Okay, that is really green. Very work appropriate. Okay, then for lips, I'm not going to use what I pulled in from my Shop My Stash because the one that I like is in my car and the other one is that Juvia's Place one, and no bueno. Do not like it. So I'm going to use this ColourPop Just a Tint. And yeah, with heavier like eye looks, I prefer a soft lip. I'm gonna put some perfume on. I don't know if you guys care, but it's the Elizabeth and James Nirvana Bourbon. Oh my God, I feel like, are these discontinued? I think they might be, which makes me really sad because God, they're some of my favorite scents. Okay, wow, that's gonna look good. Great job. I love that for me. Get a nice little bump in my hair. It's great. All right, you guys, that's a finished look. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. It was something a little bit different. I didn't get to my lifestyle recommendations. I will try to compile like an actual list of those so that I can be ready to go, and maybe we'll do that next week. Yeah, I don't know. There's just like one recipe that I thought of that I would like to share, but we'll get to that. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, give me a thumbs up, subscribe before you go, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.